Hello and welcome to another episode of Heart Centered Conversations with me, Jane McDowell, a podcast where I talk to people about their love of books, how books have inspired them, helped shift their perception for them to do great things in their life and the world. And today I'm really chuffed to have Andrea Bristol with me. So, Andrea, please take it away and tell people about yourself.
Hi, I'm really glad to be here, Jane. It's a real joy. I'm Andrea. I run a PR agency called Meyer PR. We're 4 years old now, and as well as myself, I have seven people that work for me who are all part-time and work flexibly around the other things they have in their lives.
Awesome. Yeah. So tell us, which book are you bringing to the conversation today, Andrea?
It's Untamed by Glennon Doyle, which I read. Oh, it would have been, I guess, kind of in 2019 at some point later on in that year. Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe,
yeah.
yeah.
I
Uh,
remember when you read it because you told me about it and I read it and I loved it. And
yeah,
yeah,
so it could have been, or it might have been early 2020 in that pandemic, the first bit of the pandemic when it was around then. It was in a period where the world had sort of shut down a little bit, I think.
mm,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
So what was it about that book that made you think I'm going to bring this to the discussion today?
So I was told about the book by a friend of mine, and she messaged me and said, "There's a book about you." What? What? Okay, that's strange. And then when I read it, I think I cried through pretty much the whole thing. So when I was 17, into my early 20s, I was anorexic and I never had any counselling or any therapy. I kind of battled through it on my own and with a couple of friends. And I'd never really truly figured out where it had come from. And then I read this book and she talks about so I've got a quote, I've got it here, so I'm going to read it out. But it
Excellent.
was so when you're a child, you're kind of wild and you go by your gut instinct. And then it says, I was wild until I was tamed by shame, until I started hiding and numbing my feelings for fear of being too much. And that was it. I was like, oh, that
Yeah.
was it. I was making myself small
Yeah.
because I didn't want to be too much. And Jane will know this. I am really tall, right? So I'm 6 foot and I kind of stand out and
You
I'm
do.
quite shy. Like, even though I've got a really gregarious personality when I'm working and stuff, I'm actually quite inside. I'm quite, I'm quite a shy and introverted sort of person. So um, I really went into myself as a teen in my late teens, and it was just my control mechanism of,
Yeah.
looking after myself. It's like a survival mechanism, which
Yeah.
seems weird when you're kind of killing yourself, like slowly kind of, but that's what it was. So I
Yeah.
reading, and it was like, and she also wrote, it says like she lost herself when she learned how to please, and I thought, oh, how much of my early life was all about pleasing
Yeah.
others.
Yeah. And I think that happens for a lot of people, dare I say,
Mm.
especially women,
Mm.
because, but there's some chapters in the book. I remember she was talking to, I think she was having marriage guidance counseling or some
Mm.
relationship counseling with her husband, and she went to see the therapist by herself one day and explained how I can't do this anymore. I've fallen in love with a woman,
Yeah,
and I can't have sexual relations with my husband anymore. And the therapist's response, who was a woman, was just like,
yeah,
"What?" Like,
yeah,
basically she just said, well, just suck it up and get on with it, kind of thing.
yeah.
Like,
Think of something else.
what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I know.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
and if women are telling other women to do that as well, how destructive is that? Because you know not being able to live authentically is and I know that that word is kind of overused a bit at the moment, but I really mean it in its true
Yeah,
sense, you know,
yeah,
that we have the freedom to be ourselves, and
yeah,
all these constraints are put upon us by society and what's expected of us, you know.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's I mean, it's taken me until I was, until I was 44 to actually just say, hang on, I want to be who I am,
Yeah.
and I can be that, and it's fine. I'm a mother of three, and it's good for them. It's good for them to see their mother being just wholeheartedly who she is, and not sort of toning herself down, or just assuming you need to act in a certain way. And yeah, not that I want to go and be a wild horrible person or anything, but just actually be who I am,
I don't think you could be a horrible person. I'm guessing you could be wild because that's
Oh
in all of
yeah.
us, right?
Well, could be a good thing. There's a bit in the book about, like a snow globe, and a lot of us, we keep our snow globe like shaken up,
Mm.
and keep because if you are still and you let everything settle, that's when you find like the stuff you got to deal with.
Yeah, all that gnarly stuff that you'd
Yeah, so that,
rather not look
because
at.
of like the dragon at our center. And that's the other thing that this book like prompted me to just figure out what that was, what I was keeping everything shaken up, or
Yeah,
what. Yeah, yeah, so it's prompted a bit of, that kind of work on myself.
yeah, amazing.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
what's doing that work on yourself led to, do you think, for you personally and for those
yeah.
people around you?
I think so I think a lot of people who know me just feel like they say, "Oh, you look much happier." Like, I don't know what much happier means, but I guess if I don't see someone for a couple of years and they see me now, then there's a difference. But to me, it's like, actually, um, I didn't used to really sit still or do just nothing and just be, very much at all. I was
Mm.
always busy, rushing around, like keeping my snow globe like shaken up. Um, and yeah, I think I remember speaking with my therapist, and she'd be like, okay, let's try and just be, we'll just try 3 minutes. And that was a massive test for me, just to sit and yeah, and like, for instance, on Monday, I took some time off from work because it was my birthday at the weekend,
Oh,
and
happy
I
birthday.
thank you. And I never used to be able. I've got a team now, so I can take some time away. And I went to an art gallery, and I stood in front of like my favourite picture there for so long. I think the security guard thought I might be coming up with some elaborate heist or something, because he did seem to walk past like a lot of times. But I never used to be able to do that. I felt guilty, like I should be doing something else, or some, silly things that you bring from, like, society says. There's been so much, if you're not working really hard, there's this kind of, you feel like, oh, I should be doing something all the time, and it's like, actually, I am doing something. I'm
Well,
looking
you're
at my
being,
favorite
just
picture. I'm
being is
being.
doing
I'm
something.
looking at the picture I like, for a long time. So the security guard started to worry. But, that's, I never used to be able to do that. And that space, it's so important because, I've got a creative job.
Yeah,
We create with words and strategy, and to have some space in the day, um, is vital for that. And yeah, that's what I've got now, and I never used to have that.
brilliant.
Yeah.
And do you think it's had like a knock-on effect to the way that you approach your business or your relationships with your kids or
Yeah, it has. Business wise, I mean, you can just look at the way the business has grown in the last 2 years to know that it has had an effect. Um, I think, yeah, with relationships, sort of with the kids and with other relationships, I'm much better at like setting boundaries now. I don't
Mm,
think I ever had in my whole life. I didn't really understand what they were. And then I also I trust my instincts a lot more. So I know if I sit quietly and something doesn't feel right, thinking, okay, this doesn't feel right. Why is this? And
Yeah.
then I'll go with that. I really will, because we do know as
Mm.
humans, we've had that kind of the knowing kind of trained out of us in
Yeah,
one way, but
absolutely.
we
Yeah.
do. And yeah, and I think just like tapping into that, it's yeah, it's not what in an academic way to run a business, some would say, but then it's the right way. It's the right thing to do. Tap into what feels right for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So how do you approach, or how do you feel about being able to stand in your power now and have those boundaries and say no when you're not attracted to working with a particular client, say, or if
Yeah,
you know if you need to say to your kids, no, this is not happening today, this is happening. How has that shift been for you, if you've been traditionally a people pleaser like so many?
yeah. Like it's sort of still, yeah, still a journey, definitely, because I'll slip back, like, but I notice it. Oh, I catch myself now,
Yeah,
which, until you're really aware, that's the first stage, is being self-aware, isn't it? And then
yeah,
um and so it doesn't happen so often. I think yeah, I think you get like more respect from other people, and then from my kids, for instance, or for other people, we're having, set out those boundaries. And especially now my team's growing with work, it's like, actually, I don't want them working for clients that aren't like on a level with
mm,
us. Um, and we've got some clients that are really challenging because of the work the clients do, and that's fine. Like, it really tests us, and that's absolutely fine. But there's different, we I don't like, I don't want my staff to feel like they're working for clients which just don't suit, the way we all think of the world, and we work
yeah,
with people who are doing good work, and that's really important. So I feel a responsibility to them, that that I can say no when that's appropriate as well.
yeah. It's interesting because I think that being able to say no and sort of stand in your power and say, no, we're not a match to work together.
Mm,
Um, Let me introduce you to someone else or signpost you to somewhere else.
yeah.
It's really empowering, but it kind of takes you out of that kind of scarcity mindset, I think, as well. And somehow it allows more in, if you see what I mean. Kind of
It
like it's almost like
so does.
clearing out the cupboards to let something else in that, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it really does. And a lot of that sort of comes down to kind of to my self-confidence, and um yeah, because however much you can read what you like, and books are amazing, you can read what you like about being a great entrepreneur and a great leader. At the end of the
yeah,
day, it comes down to one person and how they're feeling on that day. day.
yeah.
So
And
it's like,
also
yeah,
actually doing something about
I'm
it.
doing something, I'm taking the action.
Yeah,
And on those days when I'm not feeling so confident, and we all get those,
yeah,
and I do, I've learned, I've learned now that I just have to prepare extra for meetings, write stuff down, like,
mm,
and also go back over like successes we've had before, and gratitude really helps. And that's something that is that's quite hard to do when you come from a kind of squished, kind of scarcity kind of mindset place. So feeling grateful for stuff,
yeah,
that can be that's quite that's another way of opening up
yeah,
yourself for
definitely.
more. Yeah, I train teaching my kids about, writing a little, or just saying a few things they're grateful for each day.
Yeah.
um and that's a nice little, we do it in the car, when we're coming back from
Oh,
school.
lovely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
I think it was a book by Dr. Rangan Chatterjee I was reading, and could have been him, could have been someone else. So if you're listening to this saying, no, Jane, it wasn't, then forgive me. But um, it was either him or someone else said that each evening when the family get together for dinner, they all go round and say, one nice thing that they did for someone else and what
Mm.
they're grateful for in that day. And I think that's a really lovely, positive energy to bring to a family gathering because it can so easily descend into, oh, you're getting on my nerves. Oh, yeah. Um,
Yeah,
so I think
no,
kind of nurturing that
yeah.
ability to recognize when you're grateful and recognize what you have and be genuinely thankful and relish the joy that it brings is a fantastic thing to
Mm,
bring into your life. And like you, when I started to sort of journal around gratitude, I did think it was a bit strange, first of all. I did find it a challenge. And
yeah,
so, for ages it was like, well, I'm grateful I've got a house, I'm grateful I've got some food, what
yeah,
else can I
yeah,
think
yeah,
of? And then
yeah.
gradually you kind of open up your mind to all these other wondrous things that you can be grateful for. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely it I always find with the kids it's fine. I find I have like there's places where they you kind of got them trapped so they can you can teach them a few things. So in the car's always a good one because they're kind of there and they're my captive audience,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's trying to just introduce things that I never had, I think I never thought about like gratitude or just even though think most of us do help another person and somehow each day,
Yeah.
but actually saying that out loud, that's a nice one. I'm going to add that in. I'm going to add
Yeah.
that in. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Cool. So how else do you think that reading Untamed has helped shift your your behaviors or your way of thinking?
um yeah, I think uh, there's some of it is sort of like looking back at how you were and kind of setting out kind of how you want to be in the future and actually and going back. So I've got the journal from Tamed as well, and that's quite good because you kind of like write out the things as you write everything out.
Mm.
So like things that happened as a child and things, and it's really good just to get it out, and because it's prompts you, it kind of makes you do it, and that was quite
Yeah.
hard at first. So I think that's been really helpful. But I do keep it open, especially on the kind of those bits about intuition and knowing, and that phrase like be still and know. That's the one that I kind of keep. I've got like post-it notes in my. I always put post-it notes in my books and draw in them
Yeah.
and things. I do use like I do have like Kindle and stuff, but I like paper books. I like to stick notes in them and open them. But that's the bit that really I go back to, because if there's something difficult with work or the kids or whatever it is, um, sometimes just being still with it for a while can be really helpful, because then you don't make a rush and fire off an email when probably best you should pause and
Yes.
yeah, or and also in my work quite often we'll get clients come to us with quite difficult situations, because that's what we do, what we're helping them with their reputation, and we have some real and that helps me with that as well, because it's like, actually I do know how to handle this, but I just need to be sit with it for a little while,
Yeah.
and that sitting with it can mean going out for a walk. That's yeah, you don't actually need to sit still, but it so yeah, just let it kind of and then I naturally then discover the way to figure it out.
Yeah.
I think there's that confidence of just not rushing into things. What the world's so instant, isn't it, these days? Like you
Yes.
flick
Yeah.
on the light, yeah, that's and the light comes on, and it's like everything is so no, just hang on a little minute. And I think that's the thing that is been that's probably the most helpful sort of going forward, the thing I take forward from the book now, these years
Yeah.
from reading it first. Yeah.
Yeah. I do like that kind of. concept of being able to walk away from something in order for it to process and for you to
Yeah.
come up with a solution rather than be sitting there thinking, oh shit, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? How do I do this? Because it, raises your kind of anxiety levels and your stress levels all unnecessarily because it's all in there somewhere.
It is
Will
all
come out,
there.
won't it? Yeah,
It will, yeah. And then if you don't know how to figure it out, you know then who you need to speak to help figure it
exactly.
out.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
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 that's the other thing as well. It can, at least then you know where you need to go with something.
yeah. And great that you can sort of also, say to your client, okay, I've got you. I'm gonna come back with a solution rather than say, right, this is what we're gonna do straight away, because sometimes
Yeah.
what we think of straight away isn't necessarily the best
No, and yeah,
solution, but yeah.
you need to go through all the possibilities and things. So yeah, so it says it's a very multifaceted book. It kind of gives you it's given me a lot of things for my life and for business and everything really. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I really like the opening chapter, that story of the cheetah. It,
Yeah.
it, it made me want to cry when she related the story, just because of. I mean, I often cry when there's animals involved. Anyway, um I watched Black Beauty
Oh,
a few years ago. Oh my God,
I can't watch it anymore.
I was
No.
just sobbing my guts up. I mean, well, not just a little bit. Oh, it's sad. I mean, literally just
No.
sobbing like, oh. My husband thought something awful had happened, and I said, "Well, it has. I just watched that film,
Yeah.
of course." I was like, "Now,
There
talk about
are
it. Makes
many
me
things
too."
I just can't watch now because like they
Yeah,
bring
yeah.
yeah.
But applying that to ourselves, like you were saying at the beginning about how we're kind of pushed down and restrained and held back, and yeah, being able to actually be free to be who you are is
Mm,
a great gift. So, brilliant. So I'm going to ask you, Andrea, what book are you reading at the moment?
I am reading, so I've always got several books on the go.
Most
So
people who come to this podcast have several books on the go. Wow,
yeah, so because it
I love
depends
it.
how I'm like feeling. So I always have like a crime fiction type book on the go because that's my chill out. So I've got I've got two. So I've got a Michael Connolly kind of Bosch kind of one at the moment, and I've also got a Donna Leon book which I hadn't read before. And I'm very excited. If anyone else reads because they're set in Venice and it's like police kind of, and it's quite nice because it's all about the family and the food and
Oh,
Italy and Venice as
yeah.
well. There's like a little crime drama thing going on. So I quite
Okay.
like that because there's a lot of sort of history and cultural references and things. So they're my kind of chill ones. But on the business side at the moment, I've just read Pitch to Win because even though people keep saying, oh, the pitch is dead, no, it's not. Like I'm forever being asked to pitch. So that's been quite helpful. And I've read the best book, it's called Small Giants. And it's about companies that have kind of they're they've made an impact on the world that's much bigger than the size of the company.
Oh,
So it's
wow.
about,
Yeah.
yeah, so this really resonates with me because I don't actually want to build a massive agency. I
Yeah.
want to build an agency that works with really big like companies and we make a lot of big impacts in the
Yeah.
world. So yeah, but ourselves we're going to stay quite small. So yeah, that's so it really resonates because it's about building a company that's not just for profit because we need
Mm.
to make profit because we all
Yeah.
need to earn some money and
Yeah.
but beyond that, not for the sake, not just building a company to make profit for the sake of profit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, so yeah, it's really that's really inspiring me, and it's a slow read because I'm taking so much from it. And there's a lot of post-it notes in there already and highlighting and bits. Yeah, so that's good. So I'm reading that. Yeah.
Oh, you sound so genuinely excited by it. Yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah, it's
out.
great.
So it's
Yeah.
called Small
Small
Giants.
Giants. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's got you know, like Cliff Bar, if you know your endurance running food, like, and companies like that. And I've got one on my, but I'll tell you what is another book. I'm going to get up and get it. Hang on one second.
Okay.
I don't know if you've read, so this is like Setting the Table.
Right. Read
Which
it.
is Danny, I don't know how you say it, Meyer, I guess.
Okay.
And he owns Union Square Cafe and the chain of hospitality restaurants in New York. And they're featured in the book because the way that they have got a chain of restaurants, but they really get to know their customers really, really well. So it's really nice. It shows how, you know, you can be a big company and have several, like, you know, restaurants like they have, but
Yeah.
it's all about the way they work and the way they deal with their customers and things. So yeah, it's yeah, really, really interesting.
Yeah. I find it really inspirational hearing from people who really focus on their customer service and what their customers want. There's a really short book called Anything You Want by Derek Sivers.
Ooh, I've not
Um,
read it.
and you know, a lot of people might think, oh well, you know, he's a little rich kid who, you know, just got to set up a company because he could, not because he needed to, or whatever.
Yeah,
But I think, you know, that's totally irrelevant. He set up a company that was all based on him finding out what his customers needed and wanted and providing them with that.
yeah,
So I just thought that was really inspirational. And then the
yeah.
other one is a book called Let My People Go Surfing by the Yvon, I can never remember his surname. He set up Patagonia, the
I was
clothing.
going to say that's the Patagonia one, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
I haven't read
yeah,
that yet either, and it's on my
yeah. I mean, it's really inspirational in that he's looked at every stage of the production and the procurement of, you know, the garments that they make to make sure that there's the least environmental impact possible. And also they don't just make garments, they make, you know, climbing equipment and stuff.
Mm,
So, you know, everything about them really revolves around caring for the planet and the environment. I love it. And so, you know, I suggest anyone who has got a product that they want to take to market, read that book because, you know,
it's
it's
yeah, it is really really interesting because I know, coming from a background in kind of sportswear sales, like I did, that it's not easy
mm,
to have complete transparency of your supply chain like
yeah,
that. And I think, you know, Patagonia, that really has changed the world in a really big way.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And even if you don't have a product and you're delivering a
Oh,
service,
I mean,
still a great book to read
it
because
is, yeah, and because there's something you can take from everything. I mean, that's the thing about books, isn't it? It's like you're not going to take everything from every book, but there's usually something, like something you can take, and it's like, yeah, finding that.
mm. Well, listen, Andrea, it's been an absolute delight to chat to you today. I always love chatting to you. And thank you so much for coming along to the podcast and sharing your thoughts on Untamed by Glennon Doyle. If you haven't read it, listeners, then please go out and read it. It's a fabulous book. Alrighty, so I will
Thank
say
you, Jane.
goodbye and see you all in the next episode. Take care.